In a distant part of the galaxy, a ship floated silently in the dark. It was an old, forgotten vessel hidden away in the shadows of a giant asteroid field. Inside this ship, time had stopped for a lone human. He lay in a cryo chamber, frozen in sleep, waiting for the day he would wake up. The ship belonged to a group of aliens known as the Zarnox. They were small, green-skinned creatures with big eyes and long limbs. They were smart and curious, but were also facing a huge problem. A powerful enemy was attacking their planet, and they needed help. Their technology was advanced, but they lacked a warrior spirit. They needed someone strong and fearless, and that was when they stumbled upon the human. After days of searching for a solution, a Zarnox named Klax decided to investigate the ancient ship. He entered the dark chamber and saw the human sleeping. Klax's heart raced with excitement. What if he is the warrior we need, he thought. He quickly activated the cryo chamber, and with a loud hiss, the chamber opened. The human slowly awoke, blinking at the bright lights above him. His mind was foggy, and he struggled to remember where he was. As he looked around, he saw the strange creatures staring at him. Confusion turned to fear. He quickly tried to get up, but his muscles felt weak and stiff. "Where am I?" he asked, his voice hoarse. The aliens exchanged worried glances, unsure of how to communicate with him. "Do not be afraid," Klax said, stepping forward. "We are Zarnox. We need your help." The human squinted at the small aliens. "Help?" "With what?" he replied, still cautious. Klax explained their dire situation. A powerful enemy, the Gortak, was threatening to destroy their home world. They had lost many battles and were desperate for assistance. "Why should I help you?" the human replied, crossing his arms. "I don't even know where I am or what you want from me." Klax's eyes widened. He had hoped the human would be eager to help, but instead he felt resistance. The other Zarnox whispered among themselves, worried they had made a mistake. "He is just a man," one said. "He may not even know how to fight." But Klax was determined. "You were once a soldier, a warrior," he urged, recalling the tales of humanity's bravery. "We believe you can save us." The human took a deep breath, trying to collect his thoughts. Memories of battles and comrades flooded his mind. He had fought for his own kind, but now, here he was, in a strange place with strange creatures. He had no reason to trust them. Yet something inside him stirred, a desire to fight and protect those who could not defend themselves. "What do you offer me?" he asked, a glint of interest in his eyes. "Together we can defeat the Gortak!" Klax exclaimed, his excitement returning. "We have technology and weapons. You will be our leader." "Leader?" The human scoffed, but he felt a spark of curiosity. He wanted to know more about this alien race and their plight. "I need to see what you've got." Klax led the human through the ship, showing him their advanced weapons and technology. The human inspected them carefully, impressed by their designs. "You have potential," he admitted, a smile creeping onto his face. "But you need more than just fancy toys to win a war." The Zarnox nodded eagerly, ready to learn from the human warrior. As they began to work together, a bond started to form. The human, once a lone soldier, now had a purpose. He could help these creatures defend their home. But as he looked into their eager eyes, he felt a warning in his gut. They had awakened him from his slumber, and he would show them the true meaning of battle. Little did they know, they might not be ready for the wild spirit of humanity. The ship buzzed with energy as the Zarnox prepared for their training with the human warrior. He stood at the center of the training room, looking around at the small green creatures. They watched him with wide eyes filled with hope and uncertainty. The human felt the weight of their expectations on his shoulders. "Okay, listen up," he called, his voice steady and commanding. "If you want to defeat the Gortak, you need to learn how to fight. It won't be easy, but if you follow my lead, we can succeed." The Zarnox nodded eagerly, their eyes shining with determination. Klax stepped forward. "We trust you. Teach us everything you know." The human smiled at their enthusiasm, but knew it wouldn't be simple. He began with the basics: stance, balance, and movement. The Zarnox watched him closely, trying to imitate his movements. At first, they stumbled and fell, struggling to keep their balance. The human had to suppress a chuckle. Their attempts were clumsy, but their spirit was undeniable. "Focus!" he shouted, guiding them through each step. "Your body is a weapon. You must learn to control it." Days turned into weeks as they practiced every day. The human introduced various techniques, emphasizing the importance of strategy over brute strength. He taught them how to use their environment to their advantage. The Zarnoks listened intently, taking notes and asking questions. Their understanding of combat deepened, and soon they began to improve. During one session, the human set up an obstacle course. "This will test your agility and teamwork," he explained. "You need to work together to succeed." The Zarnoks were excited and formed small teams to navigate the course. As they tackled each challenge, they learned to rely on each other. They communicated better and started to trust one another. The human watched, proud of their progress. They were becoming stronger. However, not all Zarnoks were convinced. A group of skeptics watched from the sidelines, whispering among themselves. "Why should we listen to this human?" one said. "He's just a soldier. He doesn't understand our ways." Their leader, Varn, a tall Zarnok with sharp features, scowled. "He is nothing but a distraction." "We do not need him!" The human overheard the conversation and approached them. "If you think I'm a distraction, why don't you challenge me?" he offered, his tone confident. "Show me your strength." Varn stepped forward, fury in his eyes. "I will show you what a true Zarnok can do." The other Zarnoks watched with bated breath as the two faced each other. The human was much larger and stronger, but Varn was quick and agile. They circled each other, both waiting for an opening. Varn lunged first, aiming a quick jab at the human's side. The human dodged easily, countering with a swift kick that sent Varn stumbling back. The fight continued, each move a dance of skill and speed. Varn attacked with fierce determination, but the human used his experience to anticipate every move. In a swift motion, he pinned Varn to the ground, holding him in place. "Yield?" the human asked, looking into Varn's eyes. Breathing heavily, Varn nodded reluctantly. The other Zarnoks gasped, surprised by the human's skill. "You see?" the human said, standing tall. "Strength isn't just about size. It's about strategy and knowing your opponent." Varn struggled to stand, his pride wounded. "Perhaps I was wrong," he admitted, dusting himself off. The other Zarnoks murmured in agreement, starting to see the human in a new light. From that day on, the human proved his worth, gaining respect from many of the Zarnoks. They began to see him as a leader, a mentor who would help them fight against the Gortak. As training continued, the bond between the human and the Zarnoks grew stronger. Together they laughed, learned, and prepared for the battles ahead. The human felt a sense of belonging he hadn't felt in years. But deep down, he knew the real test was yet to come, and the Gortak would soon learn that humanity was not to be underestimated. The Zarnok ship shook as alarms blared throughout the corridors. The human awoke from his sleep, heart racing. Klax rushed into the room, his face pale. "They are here! The Gortak are attacking!" The human's mind went into overdrive. He quickly dressed in the Zarnok battle gear, feeling the weight of responsibility. He had trained these aliens for this moment, and now they needed him more than ever. "Gather everyone in the command center!" he shouted, his voice steady. The Zarnoks moved quickly, their fear turning into determination as they followed his orders. The human felt proud they were becoming a team. In the command center, the Zarnoks assembled, their eyes wide with fear. The human stood before them, trying to calm their nerves. "Listen," he said, raising his voice. "We've trained hard for this. Stick to the plan and we will win." Klax looked up, his voice trembling. "But they have powerful weapons. How can we stand against them?" The human nodded, acknowledging the worry in Klax's eyes. "We may not have their strength, but we have something they don't. Strategy. We will outsmart them." The Zarnoks listened closely as the human outlined their battle plan. They would use their agility and speed to flank the Gortak, striking from the shadows. The plan was risky, but they were ready to fight for their home. As the ship approached the Gortak fleet, tension filled the air. The human took a deep breath, steeling himself for what was to come. "Remember, stay focused and follow my lead," he reminded them. Suddenly, the ship rocked violently as laser blasts hit their hull. "Battle stations!" the human yelled, urging everyone to their positions. The Zarnoks scrambled, their fear transforming into determination. The human took his place at the helm, guiding the ship with precision. They moved through the debris of battle, dodging enemy fire. "Now!" he shouted. "Flank them from the left." The Zarnoks sprang into action, following his orders. They launched a surprise attack, catching the Gortak off guard. The human watched in awe as his team fought with courage, using the skills they had practiced for weeks. As the Zarnoks engaged the enemy, the human noticed Varn leading a small group on the front lines. They fought fiercely, proving their worth. "Good job, Varn!" he yelled, feeling a sense of pride for his new friends. But then disaster struck. A Gortak soldier spotted the human and aimed a powerful weapon directly at him. "Look out!" Clack screamed from across the battlefield. In that split second, the human ducked just as the blast flew over his head, narrowly missing him. He quickly rolled to his feet and retaliated, using the skills he had honed over the years. He charged at the Gortak soldier, taking him down with a swift kick. As the battle raged on, the human led his team deeper into the fray. They used their training to outmaneuver the Gortak, dodging blasts and striking at every opportunity. The Zarnoks were no longer timid. They fought with the heart of warriors. Despite their bravery, the Gortak regrouped and retaliated. The aliens faced fierce counterattacks, and the human could see that some of his teammates were beginning to tire. "Stay strong! We can do this!" he shouted, trying to rally them. Finally, the human spotted the Gortak commander, a massive creature with armor and weapons. The human knew he had to take him down to turn the tide of the battle. "Follow me!" he yelled, charging toward the enemy leader. The Zarnoks rallied behind him, moving as one. They reached the Gortak commander, and the human engaged him in a fierce fight. The commander was powerful, but the human was fueled by determination. With a well-placed strike, he knocked the commander off balance, and the Zarnoks quickly closed in. Together, they overwhelmed the Gortak leader, and with one final blow, the commander fell. The remaining Gortak soldiers hesitated, realizing their leader was defeated. "Now's our chance," the human shouted. "Push forward!" With renewed energy, the Zarnoks charged. The Gortak soldiers, now confused and leaderless, began to retreat. The battle was theirs. Cheers erupted from the Zarnoks as they celebrated their hard-fought victory. The human felt a swell of pride as he looked around at his team. They had fought bravely and achieved the impossible. They were no longer just a group of aliens, they had become warriors, and together they had forged a bond that would last a lifetime. But as the cheers filled the air, he knew the fight was far from over. The Gortak would return, and they needed to be ready. The victory against the Gortak filled the Zarnok ship with excitement. The crew celebrated in the command center, their laughter echoing through the hallways. The human watched, proud of his newfound friends. They had fought together and proven they were more than just a group of aliens, they were a family. "Today we showed the Gortak our strength," Clack shouted, raising a glass filled with a strange green liquid. "We will drive them from our territory!" The human smiled at the enthusiasm. "You all did amazing out there. We fought like true warriors," he replied, feeling a sense of belonging. But as the celebrations continued, he noticed Varn standing apart, his face dark and brooding. Later that night, the human approached Varn, who was staring out into space. "What's wrong?" he asked gently. Varn turned to him, anger flashing in his eyes. "You think you are one of us now? You think this victory makes us friends?" The human frowned, surprised by the hostility. "I fought for you and with you. I thought we were in this together." Varn shook his head. "You don't understand. You are a human, and humans are not to be trusted. You might be strong, but you will betray us when it counts." Before the human could respond, Clax joined them, sensing the tension. "What's happening here?" he asked, looking between them. "Varn thinks I can't be trusted," the human replied, keeping his tone calm. "I thought we were building a bond, but he doesn't believe in that." Clax frowned, trying to mediate. "We cannot afford distrust among us. We need to be united, especially with the Gortak still out there." Varn crossed his arms, his expression hard. "How can we trust him? What if he is a spy for the Gortak?" The human felt a wave of frustration but held back his anger. "I'm not a spy. I'm here to help you. I care about your people." But Varn shook his head, refusing to listen. "Words mean nothing. I will watch you closely. If you betray us, I will be the first to stop you." The human's heart sank. He had fought for the Zarnoks, trained them, and risked his life alongside them. To be accused of betrayal hurt more than he expected. He took a deep breath and stepped back, allowing Varn to have his space. As the night wore on, the celebration continued, but the tension lingered. The human tried to focus on the good times, but Varn's words echoed in his mind. He knew he had to prove himself not just through words, but through action. Days passed, and the crew continued their training, preparing for any future attacks. The human worked tirelessly, ensuring everyone was ready. However, Varn remained distant, watching the human with suspicion. The atmosphere became tense, and the bond they had built began to fray. One evening, as the Zarnox trained, an alarm suddenly blared through the ship. "Gortak ship's approaching," echoed the voice of the ship's AI. The crew sprang into action, fear coursing through them. The human rushed to the command center, adrenaline pumping. "We need to prepare for battle! Gather everyone!" As the crew moved quickly, the human felt a surge of responsibility. "We can't panic. Remember our training!" he shouted, trying to calm them. The Zarnox nodded, ready to fight once again. However, as they prepared for battle, the human noticed Varn talking quietly to a small group of Zarnox in the corner. They looked worried, casting glances toward the human. Confused, the human approached them. "What's going on?" he asked. Varn turned, anger flashing in his eyes again. "We don't need you. We'll handle this on our own," he said defiantly. "Don't be foolish," the human replied, desperation creeping into his voice. "The Gortak are strong. We need to work together," Varn sneered. "You just want to prove yourself. You don't care about us. You are just waiting for the moment to betray us." In that moment, the realization hit the human hard. Varn had poisoned the minds of some of the crew. They hesitated, unsure whether to stand with him or Varn. The human's heart sank. Suddenly, the ship shook violently as the Gortak began their assault. "To your battle stations!" the human shouted, but Varn's group hesitated. "Choose!" Varn barked, pointing at the human. "Him or us?" The crew looked back and forth, fear and confusion in their eyes. The human knew he had to act fast. "I'm not your enemy. I fought with you. Together we can win this fight." But Varn's words had taken root, and the crew's doubt grew. The Gortak attack intensified, and the human realized he had to fight not only against the Gortak, but also for his place among the Zarnox. As the alarms blared and the battle began, the human steeled himself. He had to prove he was worthy of their trust, or risk losing everything he had fought for. The stakes were higher than ever, and betrayal was now a weapon he had to overcome. "Everyone, listen up!" the human shouted, trying to cut through the noise. "We need to stay calm and work together. Varn, gather your group. We can't afford to be divided." Varn hesitated, but finally nodded, signaling to his small group to join the others. The human could feel the tension in the air, but he refused to let doubt take hold. "Klax, take the weapon station! I need you firing at those ships." Klax nodded, determination on his face. "Yes! We can do this!" He rushed to his station while the others followed suit, fueled by the human's resolve. The human turned his attention back to the battle. The Gortak ships were moving fast, firing relentlessly. He knew they had to adapt quickly. "We need to outmaneuver them. Klax, can you guide us through the debris field?" "On it!" Klax responded, quickly adjusting the ship's trajectory. The humans steered the ship into the maze of wreckage, dodging laser blasts as they moved deeper into the field. As the ship danced through the debris, the human caught a glimpse of Varn, who was still uncertain. He could see that Varn was struggling to trust him, and it worried him. "Varn!" he yelled over the noise. "Remember what we practiced. We need you on the front lines. Your agility can make a difference." Varn's eyes widened at the suggestion, but he could see the human was right. Finally, he moved forward, joining Klax and the others. "Let's do this!" Varn shouted, adrenaline fueling him. The human felt a surge of hope as the Zarnox began to move more confidently. They were starting to act as a team. "Now, follow my lead," he called out. "We will split into two groups. One will create a diversion, and the other will flank the Gortak." The crew nodded, fear replaced with determination. They moved as one, splitting into two groups and executing the human's plan with surprising speed. The diversion group drew the Gortak's fire, while the flanking group snuck around, attacking from behind. The human felt a rush of pride as he watched his team work together. The Zarnox were no longer the timid crew he had first encountered. They had become a force to be reckoned with. The Gortak were caught off guard, and soon the tide of battle began to shift in their favor. But just as victory seemed near, a massive Gortak warship emerged from the shadows, looming ominously over them. Its powerful cannons charged up, ready to fire. The human's heart sank. "Everyone, we need to focus fire on that warship," he shouted urgently. The crew scrambled, panic beginning to creep back in. "It's too big!" one Zarnox shouted, fear returning to his voice. "Focus!" the human yelled, willing himself to stay calm. "Remember our training. We can't let fear take control." He could see the hesitation in their eyes, but he had to keep pushing. "Varn, you and your group distracted while we fire." Varn nodded, taking charge of his team. "Let's show them what we're made of," he shouted, rallying the Zarnox. As they engaged the warship, the human directed the fire from the weapons station. "Now!" he yelled, and Clax fired the cannons with precision. Explosions lit up the dark void as their blasts collided with the warship's hull. The Gortak warship returned fire, shaking the Zarnok vessel violently. The human stumbled but quickly regained his footing. "Keep it steady! We can't give up!" he urged. The crew pressed on, showing incredible teamwork and courage. Varn and his group darted in and out, drawing fire and causing chaos among the Gortak ranks. The human's strategy was working, and he could feel the tide turning. With one final coordinated effort, they unleashed everything they had left. Clax targeted the warship's weak points, while Varn and the others distracted its defenses. The ship groaned under the pressure, and then, with a brilliant explosion, the Gortak warship was destroyed. Cheers erupted in the command center, a wave of relief washing over them. "We did it!" Clax shouted, a triumphant grin on his face. The human turned to his crew, seeing the joy and camaraderie in their eyes. "We did this together!" he exclaimed. "You are warriors now. United, we can overcome anything!" Varn stepped forward, his expression softer now. "I see that you are one of us," he admitted, his voice steady. "We fought side by side, and you have earned my trust." The human smiled, knowing that this was just the beginning of their journey. They had faced their fears and found strength in unity. Together, they had turned the tide of battle and built a bond that would last. With their trust renewed, they were ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead.